The FBI is the lead federal agency for investigating cyber attacks and intrusions. Our cyber division collects and shares intelligence and engages with victims while working to unmask those committing malicious cyber activities, wherever they are. Our cyber experts also work with public and private sector partners to share threat intelligence and lessons learned to help them protect their devices, information, and networks before a cyber crisis strikes. FBI Cyber is dedicated to helping private sector leaders understand the current cyber threat ecosystem, proactively prevent intrusions, and make organizational decisions that will help steal their devices, information, and networks against the cyber risks of today and tomorrow. And this commitment inspired FBI Cyber's forthcoming podcast series, Ahead of the Threat. On this special episode of our podcast, we'll hear from Ahead of the Threat co-hosts Bryan Vorndran, the Assistant Director of the FBI's Cyber Division, and Jamil Farshchi, a Strategic Engagement Advisor for the FBI, who also works as Equifax's Executive Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer, about what kind of expert conversations and insights listeners can expect from the new show. I'm Jennifer Leoprahori, and this is Inside the FBI.
Well, we're here introducing Ahead of the Threat, the FBI's new podcast on all things cyber, emerging tech, whether that's artificial intelligence, machine learning, language models, quantum, and maybe someday post-quantum. I'm Bryan Vorndran, the Assistant Director of the FBI Cyber Division. I'll allow Jamil to introduce himself in here in just a minute. I have operational responsibility for the FBI Cyber Program, both domestically and operationally, and in my vast amount of free time, I teach at Johns Hopkins in the Alperovitch Institute. This will be coming up on my third year, which is just a great way to hopefully give back a little bit to those people trying to master the cyberspace.
It's really cool that you do that. I remember I went there for one of your sessions. Great class. So I'm Jamil Farshchi. I am the CTO and CISO at Equifax. I've spent my entire career in this space, and there's a reason for that. I think I've self-selected into this area just because I love it. Like, it's always changing, new threats, new technologies, and it's really been, throughout my career, it's been like a rocket ship in terms of the criticality and importance of it. And so what I'm looking forward to here is, well, first off, being able to hang out with a friend, I think is cool. But beyond that, it's being able to share our collective expertise, all of these years that we have between us on two completely different sides of the spectrum. I think it's going to be really powerful.
Yeah. You and I have been talking about doing this for almost a year now, getting this off the ground, and we've been working together for, over 3 years now. And, one of our goals, as you know, Jamil, is to try to give back, try to leverage my network, try to leverage your network, try to leverage my perspective and your perspective, and bring really focused takeaways for organizational leaders out there trying to navigate an incredibly difficult landscape. Not just today, but it's going to become more complex in the future. And one of the things I know I've mentioned to you is I'm really looking forward to hearing from our guests so that I can learn as well as part of this process. I obviously live in an ecosystem no different than all of us, and breaking that apart a little bit I think is going to be really healthy for me. But I do hope that in the process of this that I can really offer some value as well.
Well, you unquestionably will offer a lot of value, I think, as well our fantastic guests that we have involved. But I think even in addition to that, the thing I'm excited about is being able to provide perspective on all of the stuff, the current events and the threats and the new technologies and the regulations coming down the pipeline, best practices around. Look, how do we navigate some of the things around like the SEC guidance and things like that, cyber insurance. You just go down the list, even things I think that are pretty critical to almost every company nowadays, which is, how do you pick a CISO? What are the attributes and skills you're looking for, and where's a good placement for them within the organization? And then if you're a board member or director, how do you measure them? Because a lot of board members just aren't technical, and so I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics at play here. And I think with the collective expertise that you and I bring to the table, coupled with our guests, it should be really informative to the community at large.
Yeah, and I think, building off what you're saying, this is why we're going to structure every episode in a very specific way, right? We'll spend the first 3 to 5 minutes talking about events of the week or events of the past 2 weeks, whether that's a new vulnerability or a new patch or a significant attack by the Iranians or the Chinese or by the Russians. But then we're going to get into a bulky, meaty conversation with a true industry expert every episode. Again, what's really important to me is that we give focused takeaways for our audience, right? I think that's going to be a key focus for me. But I think the content's going to be great. We're going to talk about the FTC and the SEC. We're going to talk about really significant mature incident responders and lessons learned and how we apply those to avoid those scenarios in the future. Just out of curiosity, Jamil, what's the 1 or 2 episodes you're looking forward to the most?
It's tough. It's tough to choose given the lineup that we have. Kevin Mandia, that's a big one. I've been a big supporter and fan of his, and he's seen basically every major incident, although you've probably seen quite a few in your days.
Seen my
as well.
share in the last couple of years.
So he's going to be a great one. Also, just a fantastic person. But I think the one I'm most excited about right now is Aaron Ain coming on board, who's the chairman of the board at UKG, the board that I'm on, and he's gonna be able to help illuminate the breach that they went through. And when they went through it, he was the CEO at the time. And so I think for a lot of the audience to be able to have that real world first person expertise and perspective on what a breach looks like, how it impacted the business, what the steps were that he took to be able to help resolve the situation, and the amount of time and effort that it took, I think will be really enlightening and help provide quite a bit of visibility for others to hopefully put in place some of the guidance and insights that we'll have and our guests will have to be able to avoid a similar fate for themselves.
Yeah. I have one specific episode I'm looking forward to the most, but I'm also looking forward to having really hearty discussions about organizational alignment for the future, whether that's within the heart of the organization or at the board level. How are organizations actually preparing themselves for the future? What are those best practices? What hasn't worked? What is working? How do we give the right people a voice in the future? I think that's super important.
And it's huge, though, because if we look at the data, the number of breaches and incidents and stuff, they just keep going up. So there are things that we've got to do better. And whether it's on the organizational side, the talent side, the technical one, for governance, oversight, there's a whole litany of things. But I think that the facts are the facts, and that we as a community need to do better. And hopefully we'll be able to provide some guidance and help folks out so that we can all do better together.
Yeah, but we're looking forward to informing the audience on Scattered Spider, right? It's been the talk of the town for the last year. The episode I'm looking forward to the most, though, is hearing from the FBI case agent responsible for the Lockbit disruption. In the cyber underground world, he is known as Lockbit or FBI SUP. His adversary is known as Lockbit SUP. And just getting some inner workings of that case, some nitty-gritty details, I think is just going to be a fascinating conversation.
I'll just love to hear where the origin of that, that name came from.
Yeah, we'll share that. But listen, we're looking forward to a great set of engagements here, and hopefully delivering focused takeaways for our audience. Sometimes Jamil and I will be together, and other times we'll be virtual. We have busy schedules, and looking forward to having some exciting backdrops for our virtual engagements. For now, I'm Bryan.
I'm Jamil.
Let's get ahead of the threat together.
Visit fbi.gov/ahead of the threat to learn more about the new show, and check out fbi.gov/cyber to learn more about the FBI's cyber strategy and our commitment to cross-sector cyber collaboration. We also recommend visiting fbi.gov/field offices to find the nearest FBI field office to your organization and starting a working relationship with their cyber squad today. Together, we can stay ahead of the threat. This has been another production of Inside the FBI. You can follow us on your favorite podcast player, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. You can also subscribe to email alerts about new episodes at fbi.gov/podcasts. I'm Jennifer Leopohori from the FBI's Office of Public Affairs. Thanks for listening.